We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this true college football rebel outpost, home for the true college football sickos, with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $sign where you make your comment, and I'll get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend. Breaking news of this morning per Ross Dellenger of Yahoo Sports. The $2.4 billion offer remains on the table without Michigan and USC. Let me repeat that. The $2.4 billion offer remains on the table even without USC and Michigan. We are going to go through this article of Ross Dellenger. That's basically what this live show is going to be about. And people are probably saying, Greg, once again, you are talking about this. You better believe it, I am. Thank God for Ross Dellenger's breaking news article of this morning. Because it has given balance to the reporting of this story. I feel a tremendous weight off my shoulders. I got it after reading this article. In fact, there are pieces in this. Well, first of all, and I do not mean to sound like a jerk, but this article confirms largely confirms everything college football's PATC has reported on this story. At least from the Big Ten's perspective. But there are facts in there that we knew, and I've been battling these college football reporters on X. I hope they read this article, and I hope there's some self-reflection going on. Now, it doesn't mean that this is a good deal or a bad deal, but there has been an unbelievable amount of disinformation out there. So first of all, I want to give my thanks to Ross Dellenger. Second of all, I want to give my thanks to Maria Flugar, the moderator who just popped in. I am actually under the weather today. I think I might have the flu. I'm not sure what's going on. I am not doing good. And this was not the plan to have a live show this morning or at all today, the way I've been feeling. But this breaking news, we have to do this live show. And then we'll take care of the consequences after the live show. So I might be up and I might be down. My energy level might not be the exact same as it's been. But we'll get through it. We're going to go through the article. But let's just start off with this. The deal remains at $2.4 billion without Michigan and USC. What that means is that Ohio State's value on this deal remains. In other words, nothing drops off for Ohio State. Nothing drops off for Penn State. Nothing drops off for Illinois. Nothing drops off for Northwestern. They're getting the same deal without Michigan and USC. Which none of us believed that would be the case. So Michigan and USC, in large part, their leverage has completely evaporated. It's gone. Gone. And the idea, oh no, the 16 schools should not do this because they don't have USC and Michigan. There is no, come on. If they believe in the deal, of course they should do the deal. The value of the deal does not drop at all. And that should give you another indication of how much UC Investments wants to do this deal. The person that is doing the deal, that the top person at UC Investment, says basically this is a no-brainer. They want to have a long relationship with the Big Ten Conference. The only leverage that USC and Michigan now have is the threat of leaving the conference. And there is really no threat because the grant of rights go to 2036. Neither school has got into the courts yet, and they're not going to do that. Their leverage is gone. And I think that reality is starting to set in. Now, maybe USC can get a few more dollars on the deal. But I had to start off with that. Number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This deal has been nothing like it has been reported on from the National College Football Reporters. It is not a debt that has to be paid back. Sorry, CBS Sports, but you've gotten this all wrong. The questions on why would Ohio State do this? If you go through this Ross Dellenger article, or if you have listened to us for the last 3 years, why won't Ohio State do this? They're coming out way ahead. Are you kidding me? Even if this deal doesn't work out the way that everybody wants it to work out, let's say they do this deal. And it comes up short. The projections come up short. USC Investment ain't quite going to make what they thought, which means the Big Ten schools are not going to quite get what they want to get out of this deal. But the Buckeyes are still going to come out ahead because they're going to make more money after 20 years than without the deal. I don't know why people like Matt Brown and other people are so determined to say, why would Ohio State not do this deal? If they wanted to get $100 million, they could get it more cheaply. Of course they could. Well, not more cheaply, but yeah, there's other ways for Buckeyes to get more money. But none of those other ideas form the Big Ten enterprises. Ohio State comes out way ahead. With the unequal revenue sharing, with the more percentage stake in Big Ten enterprises than Ohio State, and when if this deal happens, think about it in this way. If this deal happens, when the Big Ten negotiates with their current media partners in their exclusive negotiating window, and if they stall it out like they did last time, in which they can talk to other potential new media partners, when you have the grant of rights out to 2046, that only gives the schools in the conference even more leverage. As long as that new media contract doesn't have to go all the way to 2046. That's what the ACC screwed up on. We are going to go through the article, and the one part I got to tell you, I'm not well this morning. And when this article broke, I first was alerted by Moen because I wasn't even awake. And I saw the article and I said to myself, oh God, I got to go live. and I'm reading the article. And there's one part of the article, and we'll get to it, where the Big Ten just like Scott Dochterman's reporting yesterday was 100% accurate. And then he got ambushed by a bunch of college national football reporters because, but Ross Dellenger talks about how the Big Ten officials talking to Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellenger, they use the word, they're pissed. They are absolutely pissed at the national reporting of the story. And that is the exact phrase that I reported to you yesterday and the day before. That the Big Ten is pissed. That was the exact words that were given to me. I don't know if we have the same source, but I'm just saying. That's why we went to DEFCON 1. Maybe if this deal, after it gets done or not get done, maybe we'll bring it back to DEFCON 2. But we are at DEFCON 1. We're still at DEFCON 1. The $2.4 billion it remains on the table. We are going to get to the Ross Dellenger article. But I'm going to show you something here. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I apologize. But the man leading this from the UC investment side of it, his name is Batchelor. I apologize. I don't have the name correct. Excuse me. I also apologize in the fact that I'm going to show you something that he said. Just recently, I think it was yesterday, I failed to take note of what publication this came from. I'm going to show you one paragraph of it, but I cannot relay back to you the publication that this came from. So I apologize. That's not good on my part. Okay? I went back and this morning, I'm trying to find the article which I took this picture of, and I can't find it. But it does exist. I did not make this up. Okay? So take it however you want it. This is the UC investment person leading the charge, and he's talking about the date. I hope it goes through by the 21st of November, added Bashur. I apologize. You all know that I'm not able to, I don't speak English very good. Who is also the chancellor of the University of Waterloo and was speaking at a conference run by the Canadian University. Again, I apologize for not having the, I did not make this up. So basically, 21st of November, the reporting of Ross Dellenger seems to be confirmed, right? 21st of November, maybe it's not a hard deadline, maybe it's a soft deadline, but maybe it is a hard deadline, right? Maybe it is a hard deadline. Okay, now let's get to the article. First of all, I want to do a roll call real quick here. Kay Struthers is in the house. Thanks for everybody coming on in. This is an emergency live show. Breaking news, breaking news. The $2.4 billion offer remains on the table even without Michigan and USC. That is quite the breaking news story. I mean, I did not expect that. I thought everybody was going to lose a little bit of value on the deal. Oh, one more thing I want to bring up. I'm sorry. I'm going to go through the roll call. We're going to go through the article. We're going to get to your phone calls. One more thing I want to bring up. I learned something yesterday, and I talked to Moen about it, and I was pretty shocked by this. Again, something that I did not expect to hear. But BTM told me because I've had this feeling like, okay, University of Minnesota, they're on board because the extension of the grant of rights going to 2046 is a great deal for them, period. They're willing to give up unequal revenue sharing, have a lower stake, still a great news for University of Minnesota. As being one of the top lowest 5 brand schools in the conference, yes. But I have been still surprised that the University of Minnesota would be for a deal like this, even with all of that, because the University of Minnesota, the Board of Regents and the leadership mirrors Michigan. That's why we are part of Wisconsin and Michigan's faction, although that doesn't remain anymore. We would follow Wisconsin and Michigan's lead. But I learned, I probably should have known this. I did know a little bit about. So what happened here is President Ono, as we all know, when he was the president of Michigan, he was the chairperson of this effort to try to get a deal, to try to get a strategic partner in with the Big Ten, looking at private equity firms, looking at all these offers that they were being given. President Ono was the chairperson of this effort. One of his right-hand man, or in this case, right-handed woman, was the president of Minnesota, Cunningham, who, by the way, was the right-hand woman under President Ono at Michigan before she took the presidential job at the University of Minnesota. I was told that Minnesota is a big proponent of the Big Ten enterprises, that they want expertise to be brought in, and this is what Cunningham did to enlarge the research of Michigan, because that was her job at Michigan. So, again, even though I am the fat guy from Minnesota, I was completely blindsided by the fact that University of Minnesota was a big proponent of this deal. Kind of shocking, but whatever. Okay, I just wanted to put that out there. Florida man is in the house. Charlie Atwood, Skaven Yes Yes, MGC Sooner, Richard Griswold, The Walking Geek, Bob Swanger, Preston from Greenboro, Amazing Blue, Caleb Ramirez, Flint Dog, Good. Now Michigan can sign on. There is more information on Michigan in this article. To Mazda, the planes are landing. Case Struthers, with or without you. I did that rendition, U2 rendition, a couple of days ago. You can catch that on a short if you want. A terrible performance by yours truly. Terrible performance. But we had to do it. Chris G is in the house. Kirk Bender, James Foster, Steve Vitt, Jared Jones, Randy Taylor, Kenneth Stromness, Christopher Hooter, Mountaineer Memes, Laura Weiss, Moth Prof. Greg jumps off the Longhorn Manning train. And that's when Manning gets a rolling. No truer words have ever been spoken. Ron Nix is in the house. Movie Time Blues, Randy Taylor, Humble, Bumble, Duck. My rain pants are ready for Gophers tomorrow. We are going to be doing the watch party on that. So join us Friday night watch party, Oregon versus Minnesota. We did our picks against the spread yesterday, and I got up on my soapbox. and I declared that the Minnesota Golden Gophers were going to cover the 25.5 point spread. They were going to be down by 32 points with 2 minutes remaining. Drake Lindsay, the quarterback, is going to take the Gophers 80 yards down the field against the Ducks' third-team defense. We're going to score the touchdown. We're going to cover the spread. Go Gophers, roll the boat. Sorry, humble bumble duck. Sorry, humble bumble duck, but that is the reality. Don Scruggs is in the house. Jeff Olson is here. Mireya Hernandez Flugar is in the house. John Grove, Outlaw Skis, Anthony Mazio, Christopher Hura. Thank you for the super chat. I very much appreciate it. It's Michigan and USC. They still have leverage. Well, they're not affecting the value of the deal. So, they're not affecting the value of the deal. I don't know where their leverage is anymore. Remember, everybody, including me, thought the value of the deal would go down. It's not. The money that's supposed to go to USC and Michigan is going to go into escrow. I mean, who knows? There might be other programs looking to get in the Big Ten that might be taking that escrow money. I don't think USC and Michigan have any leverage. None. I don't know where their leverage is coming from anymore. Corey's in the house. Tice Summerall is here. The Trench Grinch. Flint Dog is in the house. Adam. Clinton Moses. Genetics is here. What else do we got? Vox Quindaro. Bob Swanger, Raider Vision, Adam, the Almighty Finn, Grateful Trojan, Rod Nix, Breeze in Georgia, Joshino, Bill G, Phenomenal Brew, Breeze in Georgia, escrow to Florida State confirmed. And John Grove is in the house. And again, if this deal gets done, I do not think I don't think it, we'll talk about it later, but I don't think it, I think it becomes an accelerant when it comes to the next wave of disruption. I don't think it slows down anything. I think it has the potential to be quite the quickening agent in the next wave of disruption. We'll go through that again. All right, guys, let's go through it. Let's go through the article. I thank everybody for coming on here. And again, we'll get to your phone calls and your super chat, super C, like Mr. Christopher Hooter. Thank you for starting us off, Mr. Hooter. Appreciate it. Let's get to the Ross Dellenger article because it largely confirms everything we have been discussing here at Peek Around the Corner. Why Ohio State and others could win big. Last November, Ted Kata, the president of the Ohio State University school president, suggested that the Buckeyes may one day earn more revenue than many of their other conference brethren. We talked about that when Carter talked about it. Almost exactly 1 year later, the Big Ten is exploring an uneven revenue distribution model as part of its much ballyhooed private capital investment deal. And again, if this deal doesn't happen, that whole unequal revenue sharing thing, that kind of goes away because that's the leverage of the bottom half of the conference, right? The capital deal introduces a new uneven distribution structure in which the Buckeyes, maybe more than any of their conference foes, stand to benefit dramatically. But the additional uneven monies, more on that later, aren't the only reasons Ohio State and the other big brands, Penn State and Oregon, are supporting this 20-year, $2.4 billion proposal. To put it simply, they are supporting it because they believe it's a good deal. And they believe it is a good deal for an assortment of reasons and concepts, some of which have been misunderstood. Some of it's been misunderstood, and some of it has been lazy reporting or just reporting using a hatchet. So let's clear the air. This deal is not with a traditional private equity company. It is with a public nonprofit entity that manages the capital investment portfolio of the University of California's Retirement and Endowment Fund and other cash assets, totaling $200 billion. The Big Ten deal is specifically with the Investor Pension Retirement Fund. It is purchasing a 10% stake at $2.4 billion in the league's new business Big Ten Enterprises, which is expected to serve as a more modernized entity to generate revenue through consolidated sponsorship, special events, and other initiatives. And this is where the rubber meets the road. How successful is Big Ten Enterprises going to be? I do not know the answer. If it isn't as successful in creating generating more in new revenue, then this deal is going to fall short from the 20 years revenue making of the Big Ten if they did not have the deal. But if the Big Ten Enterprises works, then everyone is going to come out big time. But this is where the rubber meets the road. Number 2, USC investments will hold a very limited role in the decisions with the Big Ten Enterprises and will have no decision-making power in the conference day-to-day operations. It is expected to hold a single seat on the governing board of enterprises, given it just a 10% voting block. Hopefully Andy Staples has read this, because he keeps saying 5%. I keep trying to correct him at 10%. USC investments can have a very limited role. But they are their own voting block, and if they get other board members and they decide they want to do this or that with the Big Ten Enterprises, they want USC investments expertise on the board, and they've got it. 10% voting block. Just like NBA teams bring in private equity to own 20%. But enlarged do with endowments bringing in private equity to have control of a certain percent of their portfolio. The offer from USC Investment requires it to hold its portion of enterprises for at least 15 years, meaning no quick sale of its 10% stake. UC Investment is committed to this. They're motivated in getting more revenue for the conference because it's more revenue for them. Big Ten schools hold a considerable authority on approving any sale after 15 years. Any sale after 15 years. In a statement it released last month, UC Investments suggested that this is a long-term play. We consider Big Ten Enterprises a 100-year investment. Again, people believe in this Big Ten Enterprises. And I'm gonna put it out there right now. If this happens, if the 16 schools do this, you are going to be a witness. You are going to be a witness to the creation of the Southeastern Conference Enterprises. They're not going to call it enterprises, but they're going to modernize their own conference. It's going to happen. Just the reporting of it's going to be just a little different. Number 4, the required 10-year extension of the grant of rights from 36 to 46 does not mean that the Big Ten is extending its television agreement with Fox. Again, this is not what the ACC did. The The grant of rights is a different document, a separate document than the media rights. The media rights, the current one, goes to 2029, 30. They're going to start their negotiations. And their next media deal probably is going to go to 2035 or 36. And then they're going to renegotiate again. The extension only extends the bond among the schools by 10 years, not the bond among the schools and Fox. If there's anything that anybody gets out of this live show, if there's anything that the national reporters get anything out of this article, please understand this part. It is extending the bond among the schools, in which all these schools do not want to separate that bond. They don't, and I don't believe Michigan does. I don't believe USC does. I think Michigan is being led by a wolf, and he is in the Big Ten house. And it doesn't even extend it with Fox. Remember our reporting of the last couple of months. We do not know the story here at Peek Around the Corner, but we do know we have reported to you that somehow, some way, there's going to be a structural change in and around Fox and the Big Ten. And I think this is probably a large part of it. But we do not have the story, but we have been led to believe that there's something going to be different. Okay. Remember, Fox really only has the bond with the Big Ten to 2037. USC investment stake in the Big Ten enterprises would generally allow it to earn 10% on future media rights, sponsorship, and event revenue. The other 90% would be split among the Big Ten members. The investment contains no debt, so it's not a credit card. Tom Fernelli and CBS, it's not a credit card. You got that wrong. I sometimes wonder, did any of these reporters ask any questions? I have. I've been poking and prodding on this thing for weeks. I seriously, there has been so much disinformation out there. I don't know if it's by design or by laziness or by incompetent, or did they just want to grind the Big Ten axe? I have learned a lot. I'm going to tell you something. I have learned a lot during this. The investment contains no debt, meaning the league and its members do not have a repayment obligation. The Big Ten's annual media money alone is expected to exceed $1 billion within a few years. The better UC investment does, the better the Big Ten schools do. The worse that UC investment does on this, the worse that the Big Ten schools do. USC investment has a motivation to generate a whole bunch of revenue on this deal. But there is no payback. There's a 10% stake that UC investment has. While the commissioner, Tony Petitti, has spearheaded the capital endeavor, and again, we reported this, Big Ten university presidents directed him to do so roughly a year and a half ago. The presidents, in fact, rejected a more traditional debt deal, opting instead for a proposal now on the table, a concept that values the Big Ten at a whopping $24 billion. As we have reported, this deal absolutely crushes the other offers. Nobody was expecting a valuation of the Big Ten at $24 billion. There are presidents, we have told you guys this, there are people in the Big Ten that are saying, if we don't take this deal, we should all lose our job. The exact opposite of what is being reported by the national college football reporters. Like, this deal absolutely blows away any expectations that they ever thought they would get out of a deal like this. To create a strategic partner, the Big Ten Enterprises. And it wasn't Tony Petitti trying to wreck the conference. Matt Hayes, in your hatchet job, in which Jordan Acker, the brilliant Board of Regents member of the Michigan Wolverines, reposted that article. The true wolf in the house, in the Big Ten. Now we got that out of the way. Let's circle back to why 16 schools seem to be in favor of this deal. First off, are the 16 of the 18 schools really in favor of the deal? You should know that Ohio State continues to hold dialogue with the Big Ten office, specifically over governance issues within the Big Ten enterprises. That's a big one, right? What's the governance issue in the Big Ten enterprises? We told you that Ohio State is running this. It's a faction of one right now. We got criticized by saying that, but we had the goods. We reported to you. The Big Ten enterprises is going to be a 10-member board, a 12-member board, a 14-member board. It's going to have a CEO. Who gets to name the CEO? The Buckeyes want to know. They are running the ship. While the Buckeyes seem mostly in support of some of the capital investment elements, not quite signed on it yet, certain conditions need to be met. One thing is clear. There are two schools in Michigan and USC pushing back against the proposal. Michigan and USC, as you probably read in Yahoo Sports on Sunday, the Big Ten signaled last week in messages to Michigan and USC that a tentative vote is scheduled for next Friday, the 21st of November. The league even distributed to the two programs an outline of what would happen if they voted against the deal. A strong indication that all the other schools are in support or will eventually support the proposal. Because again, I'm sorry, Matt Hayes, Annie Staples, Wasserman, Dennis Dodd, all of you, I'm sorry to say this, but this is not Tony Petitti running the Big Ten into the ground. The Ohio State Buckeyes are running the ship on this. They got the votes. They have the support, and they're going to have the support on the new Big Ten expansion when that happens. Not if, but when. If the Big Ten, if Michigan and USC vote against the deal, the schools each have a grace period, likely a few months, to opt into the deal to receive their full capital funds. According to messaging to Michigan and USC, if they have not opted in by a certain point, perhaps 2 years, they would no longer be entitled to the deal, and their grant of rights would expire at the current date of 2036. And that's how it is currently, right? 2036 for everybody. UC Investments has agreed to proceed with the investment deal. PATC money shot of the article. UC Investments has agreed to proceed with the investment at the same $2.4 billion valuation, even without the two schools committing to the deal and extending their grant of rights, according to those briefed on the matter. That means the upfront payments to Michigan and USC are likely to be housed in escrow. Nobody's valuation goes down. The Buckeyes get what the Buckeyes get. Penn State gets what Penn State gets. Nebraska gets what Nebraska gets. Nobody's value goes down, even if Michigan and USC are not part of the deal. That's how committed UC Investment is to this deal. But enough about the schools that don't want to do this deal. Let's get back to the other 16. Why do this? Thank you, Ross Dellenger, for having this article out there, for some balance in the reporting, whether if you're for the deal or against it. Somebody is actually reporting and asking the questions, why should we be for this deal? Unlike every other national college football reporter out there. For the most prominent brands, they will reap the benefits of an uneven distribution structure, along with Penn State and Michigan, if Wolverines agree to the deal. Ohio State will earn an immediate infusion of $190 million, compared to around $145 million for the next group, Oregon and USC if it agrees, and $100 to $110 million for the 13 other schools. And hopefully Minnesota gets $100 million and $1, and Wisconsin gets $100 million. If there's not a $1 difference between Minnesota and Wisconsin, the Gophers should walk away from the deal. Okay, just kidding, just joking. I'm joking, evil Badgers. The upfront money isn't the only bucket distributed unevenly. Future revenue distribution from the conference is staggered. The Buckeyes, the Wolverines, the Nittany Lions at 5.5% of league revenues. Oregon and USC at 5%, and all others at 4.9%. UC Investment collects 10%. In addition, there's a $50 million bonus for a select group of schools once the new television deal is struck, started in 2037. And there are millions available in a brand and success bucket, available to all programs, but likely awarded to the Blue Bloods who often win. But again, this is not static. It's not static. If you can punch above your weight, you're going to be making more money. But why would everyone else support the deal? We understand why the biggest brands would support the deal, because they would come out way ahead. Why would the other schools support the deal? Because of stability. It's the most unsettled time in college athletics. For us to commit together for another 10 years is massive, said one athletic administrator at a Big Ten school. The 20-year bond provides security for middling or lower tier programs at a time when college sports' biggest brands are being lured toward a more consolidated or independent structure. Think the Super League. And by the way, the Super League, which a lot of college football reporters are for, well, that would bring in private equity money. Billions of dollars. And they would have control over the Super League. Large parts, but then again, if the Big Ten does this deal, it's evil. If the Super League is created, well, it's just so fantastic. And as we have reported, the Buckeyes in Michigan, at least at that point, under President Ono, Penn State, Nebraska, they have no interest in a Super League. Why would they? Now, in fact, during a call Tuesday evening, Big Ten athletic directors expressed their frustration toward those across the country who they believe are attempting to disrupt or delay the deal for their own personal benefit. They're not happy. In fact, says one, we are pissed. We at Peek Around the Corner. We have been the ones who have reported this to you. In fact, we use this exact same phrase because that's what we were told. They are pissed. It could be some of the same sourcing. I don't know. Look, you can be for this deal or against this deal, but there has been a consistent disinformation campaign out there about this deal from national credible college football reporters. And the Big Ten is pissed. And that's why we went to DEFCON 1. There was no curiosity among these reporters. They just wanted to grind their axe. There has been leaks from those. I got to be careful here, but there has been a concerted effort. And I think maybe it has made the Big Ten schools even bonded even closer. Getting a grant of rights signed is so important in this environment, says another administrator. This is a creative way to bind all schools. Everyone's getting something out of it. The Buckeyes are going to make way more money than they ever thought. If they projected Big Ten revenue for 20 years out, this goes way beyond their projections. Same with Penn State. They're not getting this money anywhere else. They're not. Unless they create some sort of 16-team Super League with the top SEC brands. And they don't want to do that. They don't. No offense to the SEC top branded schools, but the Big Ten branded schools find no commonality with those schools. They do not want to do that. Sorry, Andy Staples. Sorry to blow up your dream. They don't want to do that. The Buckeyes don't want to do that. Michigan truly does not want to do that. The extension of the grant of rights also positions the Big Ten to maximize its TV rights in 2030 when its broadcasting deal with NBC and CBS ends, and again in 2036 when its broadcasting deal ends with Fox ends. Okay, so I brought this up earlier in the monologue, and I never even thought of this. Shame on me. Shame on me for not even thinking about this. But extending the grant of rights strengthens the Big Ten positioning, leverage, when it renegotiates in 2030. And especially when the Fox broadcasting deal, that ends with Fox in 36, because at that point, the grant of rights was going to go away. They're going to have to renegotiate a new one among the schools, among the new media company. But this 2046 grant of rights is the schools bonding with each other. It doesn't give the rights to Fox to negotiate from 36 to 46. This gives the Big Ten schools even more leverage in their TV negotiations. This is a big one. A big one. A massive reason to do this. And I failed to see it, along with all the other college football reporters. Hopefully, I'm going to take the L on this. Hopefully other people do, but they probably won't. This is a massive reason to do the deal. So what happens now? The Michigan regions are scheduled to meet next Thursday, a day before the Big Ten's tentative date for a vote. The Wolverines, this is very interesting, PATC money shot number 2 of the article. The Wolverines hired their own banker to examine the UC investment offer. Also, the American Council of Trustees and Alumni is holding a call this Friday of Big Ten University trustees, many of whom are frustrated with the process and believe they were not involved enough. You can talk to every bleeping board member. You can't talk to every bleeping board member of all 18 schools, says one Big Ten official. Sometimes this is up to the ADs and presidents to distribute the information, and they have. So how will it end? I couldn't tell you that. The longer it goes, the less chance. In other words, November 21st, probably is a hard deadline. Probably. I don't know that for sure. I couldn't tell you that. The longer it goes, the less chance, says another Big Ten administrator. At least now, hopefully, you have clarity about the deal and the understanding of why schools support giving up 10% of future revenues. The answer should be clear now. Uneven distribution, long-term stability, and infusion of cash at a financially stressful time. There is the article. Thank God Ross Dellenger wrote it. He asked the questions. He had curiosity. And now we've got some resemblance of balance in the reporting. Thank you, Ross Dellenger of Yahoo Sports. There is a link provided in the description box below if you want to go back and read the whole article. I am going to go down a road here. Before we get to your comments, before we get to your phone calls, please let us realize that the Big Ten is probably worth 1/3 less without Michigan and USC. Well, they're not. Not according to USC investment, because the $2.4 billion offer remains on the table without USC and Michigan. USC and Michigan is going to be part of the Big Ten until 2036, unless they are successful in the courts. Big Ten should not jeopardize losing two of the three. They're not going to lose those two. They're not going to lose those two programs. I'm sorry, guys. The leverage that Michigan and USC had is gone. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. They don't have any leverage. I'm sorry, guys. That talking point now dies. Completely dies. It completely dies. And by the way, other conferences, if the 16 schools do this in the Big Ten and they do it, other conferences are going to do this and they're going to extend their grant of rights. So if Michigan wants to go somewhere else, they're going to be in the same position. But the deal isn't going to be as good as the Big Ten, unless you're in the SEC. And Michigan ain't going to be a part of the SEC. So no, their leverage is gone. I respect the other opinion, but their leverage is gone. Christopher Hooter, they're putting Michigan and USC money in escrow. They're assuming they'll come in later. That is why it's the same $2.4 billion. But the other schools are going to get the cash right away, Christopher Hooter. The Buckeyes are going to get $190 million. Minnesota's going to get $100 million. Nebraska's probably going to get $110 million. The money is already going to be in everybody's hands. They got this certain... You guys are really... I know you want Michigan and USC to have all this leverage. It's gone. All the people who said this deal was going to go down in value, including me, well, it's not. So you got to readjust your thinking. Hopefully zero, Studzilla. Hopefully zero. Okay. All right. One other thing. Sorry, but the partnership between Michigan and USC is leverage. This creates a notable rift. There is a fracture. There is a fracture. But you guys are acting like today is the same as it was yesterday and the day before. Now that we know the deal remains in place, even without the two schools, no, they don't have the leverage. They don't. They don't have to take the deal. Listen, guys, If Michigan, USC don't want to take the deal, they don't have to take the deal. And they're going to be part of the Big Ten until 2036. They are going to be part of the value when the Big Ten goes to their next meeting negotiations. Michigan, USC are still going to be part of the Big Ten. Michigan, USC are not going to get more media revenue money because they're not part of this deal. They're not getting the cash infusion. They're not going to be making more than Minnesota. They're not leaving the conference. I don't know where you guys think their leverage is. They're going to be upset. Maybe they take to the Big Ten to courts. If they take the Big Ten to the courts, by the way, if Michigan does that, there's going to be a riot. I mean, the faculty will riot against this Jordan Acker. I think you guys I don't think you have readjusted your thinking to the reality on the ground. USC and Michigan's leverage has completely evaporated. If they want to plan to leave the conference, they can go ahead and plan. If they want to bitch and moan, they can bitch and moan. They can leak more stuff to the reporters, but they're in the conference until 2036. They're just not going to get all the benefits that Penn State and Ohio State and Oregon are going to get. Michigan and USC are going to cost themselves millions and millions and millions of dollars. What leverage do they possibly have? They don't have to sign the deal. They can leave after 2036. They can do that. You know, if USC and Michigan decide they want the deal and they don't want the deal, I'm sure there's quality schools in the ACC that gladly take that money. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm going to get to next. You don't think there's schools, very valuable schools out there that they would love this deal? Remember, ACC and Big 12 schools, they have gone through the same process with their commissioners. They've never seen a deal like this. Their deals, a Big 12 deals, are 25%. A private equity firm would have 25% ownership of the conference. That's not what this deal is. It's not even close. Kansas and Utah would take this deal. They would take the $100 million cash infusion. They would take this. They would take this. Tony Petitti would not be able to get 12 words out of his mouth before Utah and Kansas would take this deal. Miami would take this deal. They would slam the door. They'd be on the first airplane to Rosemont. Florida State would take this deal. They wouldn't even. They would have a 30-second Board of Trustees meeting in Tallahassee. Clemson would say, thank you, can I have another? Clemson would say, we'll take 50% of whatever you offer. I respect the different opinions. I really do. That's what makes this show go. But Michigan and USC's leverage has completely evaporated. They do not have to take the deal. They don't have to. In fact, you know what? The deal might not even happen because Ohio State might not be satisfied with the governance issues inside the Big Ten enterprises. But they probably will. As we have reported, Big Ten, there are financial people that have looked at this deal and they have said Big Ten ain't worth $24 billion. There's no way that the Big Ten schools should turn this down. The Big Ten enterprises consolidating their advertising, leveraging they're going to be able to leverage everything that they can sell at a much higher rate than ever before because of this for-profit this, for some people, this is a no-brainer. Michigan and USC will not be giving away 10% of the future earnings either. But what if that 10% of future earnings is like goes up 15%, Bimba? What if the future earnings go way above 10 I mean, it's like, first of all, you're not going to get the cash infusion. Okay, that's $140 million that can be made up. But you're not going to be having that unequal revenue sharing that Michigan and USC would have. You're not going to be making you're going to fall behind Ohio State. You don't want to fall behind Ohio State. Because you're stuck in the conference until 2036. Why would you want to give the Buckeyes this much of a financial victory? The Buckeyes, look, when it comes to the money, the Buckeyes are not risking the same as Maryland. Because even if UC investment, even if the Big Ten Enterprises comes up short to what they projected for new revenues to be created under this deal, it ain't going to affect the Buckeyes because they're going to be making way more because of the unequal revenue sharing. The Buckeyes are still going to be okay. It's Maryland, Purdue, Minnesota. Those are the schools that are going to be affected more if UC investment doesn't quite live up to standard. But they're still going to get their extended grant of rights to 2046, which what they want. It's 10% of future earnings. I'm confused on what they're getting. What are they getting 10%? Big Tens are public institutions. You can't give it to a private equity partner. This is not a private equity partner. UC Investment is not a private equity firm. And public universities deal with private equity all the time. Their endowments use private equities. They give a certain percentage of their portfolio to private equity. University of Michigan gives a lot of their portfolio to private equity. So those talking points just... The question you have to ask yourself is, Michigan, do you make more money from now until 2046 without this deal, or do you make less money? No. Michigan, do you make more money from now until 2046 not doing this deal, or do you make less money for not doing this deal? That's the question you have to ask yourself. UC Investments is likely overvaluing the Big Ten. That's why a lot of people are saying this is a no-brainer. Sure. I guess. Look, the more money that I don't think people are really understanding this deal. I don't know much more than I can say about it. UC Investment and UC Investments, the more money they make, the more money the Big Ten schools are going to make. UC Investment is not doing this deal to try to screw the Big Ten schools. They want to make money. They want to make back their $2.4 billion investment. The more they make, the more the Big Ten schools make. There is no repayback of the $2.4 billion. UC investments take 10% of the future earnings. Big Ten schools believe, the 16 of them believe because of this deal, they're going to get well more than 10% increase in earnings doing this deal than not doing this deal. Because of the creation of the Big Ten enterprises, to get expertise, a board member, a CEO, that's going to be able to consolidate the purchasing power of 18 or 16 schools. It's like the media rights. Schools bundling together to negotiate media rights is way more effective for all the schools, including Michigan and USC, than if they went alone. Bundling content together creates more leverage for the schools. And you want to have an example of that? The Big Ten bleeping network, the SEC network, the ACC network. But getting back to the Big Ten network, bundling that content together has made more money for the Big Ten schools, for the non-revenue schools, than if everybody went alone. That is the absolute fact. It cannot be denied. So the thought is, and everybody has the same thoughts, by the way, Big 12, ACC, SEC, if you bundle up our purchasing power all together as a unit and put it into a for-profit enterprise entity, we're going to make more money together. 16 schools or 18 schools, leveraging them together, and go to the national advertiser and say, you better come up with the biggest bid to put something on our jersey, to put something on our helmets, to put something on the football fields, to have certain signage in the stadium, to have certain advertisers for our events. That is why everyone, except for Jordan Acker, almost everyone believes in this. And by the way, a lot of you are going to roll your eyes at me, but this has got to be said. Michigan does not want to leave. Michigan does not want to leave the Big Ten consortium. They do not want to leave these relationships behind. Are you kidding me? That massive research university that went to the floor, that went to the wood, Michigan battled to get the University of Washington into this conference. Michigan does not want to leave. And there ain't no joining no Southeastern Conference. And if they're going to join the ACC, you're talking about the land of instability. Okay. You can do it in 2036. But that in itself is not leverage. That's not leverage. As big and powerful and valuable as the University of Michigan is, their value evaporated in this article. Just like those that have been leaking to the college football reporters to destroy this possible deal, obviously there was a concerted effort to open the doors to Ross Dellenger and give him the real information. And now that has put pressure and that has evaporated the so-called leverage that Michigan and USC might have had. And again, there are other schools that would take this deal. They would take half of what Michigan and USC are getting on this deal. Half. And they would come in, they would be coming in with all the bells and whistles. They'd be celebrating. They'd be throwing parties. Nah. Michigan created the Big Ten. Minnesota created the Big Ten. Minnesota along with Michigan. And Minnesota never left the Big Ten, unlike Michigan. And when Minnesota and Michigan battled against each other in the early 50s on who should they expand the conference with, Michigan supported Pittsburgh. Minnesota supported Michigan State. And we know how that went. Okay. Alrighty, guys. We're going to go to your phone calls. I appreciate everybody coming on in. I very much thank you. Thank you, Christopher Hooter, for the super chats. I appreciate it. The phone lines are now open. Let it rip. Let me know how wrong we got it. Once again, at Peek Around the Corner, 763-260-1333. But I'll tell you, our reporting of this story has been largely confirmed by Ross Dellenger and Yahoo Sports.
From
Christopher Hooter.
Christopher Hooter, the floor is yours.
Oh, you're on fire today. I hope you're feeling okay.
I am gonna feel like death after this live show is over.
You've got Big Ten Enterprises fever. Well, okay, if this was all about the SEC and this was with, I don't know, the University of Georgia pension fund or whatever, I would be adamantly against it. There's no part of it I would want to be a part of. But not. This unequal revenue share is going to ruin the league. You've got, 14 schools that are desperate for cash, and they got to have it now. That's why they're for the deal, because they want the $100 million. That's why. Oh, don't worry about that other later. That'll be the next athletic director's problem, or the next trustee's problem, or the next president's problem. Right now, I got to pay $20 million roster for my football team, and I got to get out of jail. That's what this is about. And Greg, there's no, if I'm selling you a house on 5 acres, and we say that's worth $2.4 billion, and now I'm going to sell you the house in 2 acres, there's no way it's still worth $2.4 billion. They're assuming USC and Michigan are coming in.
No. You're worth what someone's willing to give to you. You're worth what somebody's willing to give to you. And if you see investments willing to give, if they're willing to keep the same deal, then yes, you're still worth $2.4 billion. Sorry. You are
but they're
worth
putting that money in escrow. They're assuming they're going to come around.
That doesn't change the value of the Big Ten. It just goes into escrow. Minnesota's still going to get Minnesota is still going to get what it gets. Buckeyes is still going to get what it gets. It doesn't. No, you're looking at this wrong, Mr. Hooter. The value is staying the same. Please,
Greg, you're a trustee.
To the actual reporting of it. It stays the same.
You're a trustee on UC pensions or UC investments or whatever. You're a trustee on it. Okay? I've just potentially lost the biggest brand, arguably Michigan, and we're going to pay the same amount of money?
Yes.
That trustee should be fired immediately.
The guy that has doubled the portfolio in 10 years is going to get fired. This guy has been an absolute genius over the last 10 years. Again,
we're not talking about losing Northwestern. You're talking about losing Michigan.
What?
I mean, we're not talking about losing Northwestern. There's somebody. You're talking about potentially losing Michigan. I don't know, man.
Who are you losing Michigan to, by the way?
You're creating a risk.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's much of a risk, to be honest with you.
Well, okay. Well, how about unequal revenue share? You're going to lock in unequal. Now, if I'm Ohio State, I'm all for the deal.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I'm Michigan, I'm all for the deal for the same reason Ohio State is.
And Minnesota, and let me tell you something, Minnesota is for the deal because the grant of rights is extended from 2036 to 46, which is going to create more leverage during the next media rights negotiation. Not just now, but especially not in 2020, not just in 2029, but but 2036. So extending the grant of rights creates more value for the conference. It does. That has been true in every media rights negotiation. For as long as we
and that's good for Minnesota. I get how that's good for Minnesota.
Well, but see, you get how it's good for the top programs. You get how it's good for the bottom programs, which Minnesota is. So what am I missing here?
Well, one is you're de facto selling 10% of your athletic department's equity. And you can say, well, that's just a Big Ten. No. That means every school has lost 10% of their equity. That's what it means.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's almost like they are gaining a lot in this deal that goes beyond the 10%. That is the belief. Like if I create more than 10% value over here, I'll give you 10% value over here. If the creation of the Big Ten enterprises in being able to leverage all the content, all the other content that you have, the purchasing power, just like when you negotiate your media rights, if you're getting way more than 10%, then giving 10% stake to the investment, you're coming way out ahead still. I think what you're saying, Christopher, is, and other people, you're not a believer that UC investment in creating the Big Ten enterprises and having more leverage in the media negotiations is going to create more than 10% revenue because you're giving 10% stake to UC investment, correct?
Or I'm not a believer that other than money, what is UC investments bringing in? Well, why don't you cut a deal with a marketing firm or something, or a marketing fund? Right?
Whatever expertise you bring in, you got to give them motivation to create the revenue. I mean, you can't just say, "Oh, we'll bring you in, we'll buy you lunch." And by the way, can you find us $2 billion more of? That's not how it works. You got to give them a stake in it. You got to give them motivation to create that revenue. That's what the 10% stake is.
But they don't have. They're not subject matter experts in marketing. Well, why don't you go in with a capital marketing deal if there is such a thing? And why are we drawing the line between public equity and private equity? It doesn't matter. It's a third party who has interest in it. It doesn't. Right? Either way, it's a third party.
Nobody. First of all, UC investment is valuating the conference at $24 billion. Jordan Acker, Michigan Board of Regents, who said he was going to find a better deal for everybody, kind of like O.J. Simpson was going to find the true murderer. Basically the same thing. Jordan Acker he ain't looking for it because there ain't a better deal out there. Okay, there ain't a better deal out there, and there ain't another O.J. Simpson murderer. I mean, who killed Nicole Simpson?
There's another glove.
So let's get back to it. You're asking if they should bring in a marketing firm, whatever. They're not offering $2.4 billion. Nobody's offering a valuation of $24 billion. That's absolute. If anything, UC investment is. I think we're. I do not know how the Big Ten schools do not do this deal. I don't get it. I mean, and I learned something new today. The leverage that the Big Ten will now have in their media rights negotiations by extending the grant of rights 10 more years is huge. It's massive.
But they don't need UC investments to extend the grant of rights 10 years. They can just do that.
No, but they do because it's a bargain among all the schools. It's the great compromise. Some schools are getting a higher revenue, unequal revenue. Some schools are getting the benefit of the grant of rights going 10 years. This is a grand bargain among the schools. You take any piece out of it, it doesn't work. This is a grand
But I think that's
bargain.
an internal matter with the Big Ten. You see investments say, look, we're going to give you $2.4 billion. How you guys want to divvy that up, that's between you. That's how I read what's going on. So to sell it to Ohio State, yeah, we're going to give you more.
All right. Well, I tell you this, Christopher Hooter, if the Big Ten does this, I look forward to our Southeastern Conference discussions on the same subject, because I'm going to tell you, it's a coming. It's absolutely a coming.
All right. Well, you're the man.
You got
it. I
appreciate
appreciate the show.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Oh, Ryan Willie, call again. Oh, there he is. Nope, now it's Rick.
Call from
Rick.
Rick, thank you for calling. The floor is yours. My goodness.
Well, let me shut the background off there.
No problem.
Wow. Well, regardless of what happens, USC and Michigan will always have the scarlet letter on their forehead.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't think so. I think Michigan has been hijacked, by the way. But anyways, I think that's probably going to. You know, they went and got themselves an independent banker to take a look at this, and I think the answer coming back to Michigan is, you should probably take the deal.
Number two, Ross Dellenger is not a hero. He's a coward for not having done this on his own weeks ago like you did.
Okay, those are your words. I'm not going to. I appreciate his article today.
My words. My words are always my words.
Yeah.
And he's one of the soggy bottom, wet blanket boys that loves to throw SEC, ESPN wet towels over any story that isn't in favor of them. The last thing is, this is the way I see this deal working out. This is a divorce. And Michigan and USC are the ex-wives. And they've got an alimony check, but they can't cash it because it's an escrow until they sign the papers. And the other 16 teams in the Big Ten have custody of the children.
Wow. Holy smoke. I didn't think this call would go in that direction.
Thanks for taking my call. I'll take the response off air.
Huh? Got it. Thank you, sir. I'm gonna go ahead and do some speculation. We are in the gold and blue dude speculation zone. Hold on.
Call from
Evil Badger. Ryan Wilde, you on the line?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make a few comments. Are you okay waiting just a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna. I'm gonna try to extend my statements on Michigan and USC. I don't believe they have. I think their leverage is gone. There might be some relationship leverage that they still have, like USC. Maybe they can get a few more $1 million off whatever deal is being offered to them. You know, a little bit of a compromise back and forth. And Michigan, I don't know what they can do with that, but my prediction is Michigan and USC are going to sign the deal, and they're not going anywhere, and they're going to make out like gangbusters. How about that? Maybe I'm being a very naive person, That could be. Michigan is a Big Ten school that I think people realize when Jordan Acker reposted that Matt Hayes' article that basically thrashed the Big Ten for everything that the Big Ten has ever done, basically. I think people figured out I think the other Big Ten schools figured out what Jordan Acker was all about. This is a political thing for him. This is a righteous political whatever. Big Ten, Michigan boosters and faculty, I mean, yeah, they've been pissed at the Big Ten for this issue or that issue, but Michigan is Big Ten, and they're not going to go to the Southeastern Conference. There is no other option for Michigan. The option that Michigan has is not to do the deal. But if they don't do the deal, the other schools, they run the huge risk that the other schools are going to be making more money than Michigan. Everybody, including Minnesota and Northwestern. I mean, that is the risk they run. And there's a risk on the other side, you know. There's a risk of not doing this deal. And I think at the end of the day, if UC investment, which I thought, and everybody thought, was going to come back and do a readjustment of the money going to the other 16 schools, that was leverage that Michigan and USC had. But because the offer is the exact same to those other 16 schools, that leverage is gone. And you've got other schools knocking on the door that want to join the Big Ten. That is the reality of all realities. And some of these schools, although they're not Michigan and they're not USC, if they come in and take less value, well, then the Big Ten is just going to be fine. So I think USC and Michigan sign up, and I think the fracture gets repaired somewhat, and I think the conference is going to prosper. I could be wrong, but I think they're going to prosper out the deal, and Southeastern Conference is going to follow up mightily, and they're going to have a monster deal, and they're just not going to have the same reporting. They're going to have a positive reporting throughout the land. Ryan, Willie, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. Greg, I have a question. Wasn't it about a year ago that Brett Yormark was pursuing the same type of deal for the Big 12?
Well, he was trying to get a deal. It sounds, according to Scott Docterman, basically the deals were 25% stake of the conference. And in almost half of the Big 12 conference, almost half of the schools said that we couldn't possibly do that. So Brett Yormark had to walk away from those deals, which was probably probably the good move to walk away from that. But he was not going to be able to get all school, not a 25% stake in a true private equity firm, in which the private equity firm would have 25% ownership of the conference. Completely different type, and they could sell it off at any time and all that stuff. Completely different type of deal than this one. At a much lower valuation, by the way. $1 billion valuation. Go ahead, Ryan Willie. Yep, you're correct.
And I believe that as soon as this goes through, if it does, goes through, the Big 12 will try again. The ACC will try their own. Because you said that they're checking stuff out with Goldman Sachs, I believe you said. And I believe the ACC will do the same thing in order to see if they're universities in their conferences. So I just think that everybody in the chat room, everybody, all the reporters that aren't Big Ten reporters are just going to want this thing to basically kill the conference. And that's what I think a lot of the Big 12 fans in the chat room are just making the saying that Michigan and USC are going to leave, which would be a big mistake if they did. Because the only option I would think that they would have is going independent, and they wouldn't get as much as Notre Dame does from their deal with NBC.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I think a lot of these people in the chat room are just trying to get you going, and
that's part of the fun.
Especially the Christopher Hooter. I think
he's fine.
Because I could hear him laughing when he was talking with you.
He's fine. He's fine. He's a great caller. I got no problem. I like people disagreeing with me, Ryan Willie, especially you when we're talking about the Axe game.
Oh, and now I believe that the Badgers really do have a chance to win the Axe back.
All right. Well,
yeah, especially their defense and going younger. And I hope that all these young players stay and not leave when the portal opens in January. But yeah, I honestly don't think that Michigan and USC will leave. And it would be a big mistake if they did. All right, well, that's all I had.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the call, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, bye.
Yeah, so if this deal gets done, then you're going to have other schools and other conferences circling back with each other and see if, first of all, they're going to have a large discussion on, is this Big Ten deal, is that really good for that conference, those schools? Are we going to fall further behind? Is the creation of the Big Ten Enterprises a for-profit entity within the conference that has a CEO that's going to be leveraging everybody together to make deals together, not just the media deal, but a whole lot of other deals? Is that actually going to work? And if the answer is yes, we think that's going to work because we've thought it was going to work, okay, now we got to create our own Big 12, ACC, SEC, for-profit enterprise entity. What expert are we going to bring into it? How are we going to do it? Who's going to be the CEO, and how do we fuel it? How does the money come in? Are we going to do an investment? Can we get a third-party money coming on here? How are we going to have to, is the Big 12 to get everybody on board? Are they going to have to do a little bit of an unequal revenue sharing? The ACC's already got that. And while they're doing all of that, then you're also going to have this concerted, aggressive effort by Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, in other ACC schools and some Big 12 schools to have those last discussions with the Big Ten and say, look, we want in. We want in. What can we do to get into the Big Ten Conference? Because this is an accelerant, right? If they come in, you see investment, the Big Ten would do evaluation. If they do evaluation on, let's say, Virginia, okay, They would get a certain percent stake of the Big Ten enterprises. They would get a cash infusion. Maybe some of that cash goes to the other Big Ten schools. Maybe Virginia would only get like $80 million of it, whatever. The negotiations are going to be furious with, it's just going to be aggressive, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Virginia can take some of that money and pay off the exit fee of the ACC, or Florida State, or Clemson, or whatever school you want to put in there. Because they don't have to come in at full freight. You can bring schools in, and it ain't going to be a drag on the conference because they're going to be coming in. They're not going to be coming in at Ohio State, Michigan, USC level, unless it's Notre Dame. This whole deal could grease the skids for further expansion easily. Because whatever you bring in, whatever schools you're going to bring in, the valuation of the conference is going to grow. So USC investment is going to, they're going to, okay, all right, so we think this school is worth so much, they give it to them, and maybe between the Big Ten and the school, maybe the school gets all of it, maybe whatever. But gone are the days that you have to bring in a school that's going to increase everybody's slices, because that can easily be done. Now with this deal, you give that school coming in a lower stake percentage of the conference, and they can build themselves up over time. And then you might ask, well, Greg, why would some school come in at a lower stake percent of the conference? Because they want to get into the Big Ten. They want to get into the Southeastern Conference because they're going to make more money in the long run anyways. Super chat.
From
3i Atlas.
Three Eye Atlas. Not only does he have a voice, but he actually called college football's Peek Around the Corner. 3i Atlas, can you hold on for just a moment, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you're flying up there, and you don't have a whole lot of time. You might be breaking up right now. Who knows what's going on? There's a whole bunch of new news information this morning. But before we get to 3i Atlas, has been super chat. There was a method to Silent Tony's quiet approach. Do you owe Enterprise Tony an apology? I think I do. But again, it's not a full blanket. It's not a full blanket apology. Because there are times that Silent Tony should have spoken up when he did not. I'm not going to apologize for that. But I do apologize for coining the name Silent Tony. I now understand why, in large part, he is silent. So yes, Tony Petiti, I owe you an apology. I apologize. Hopefully you take it in the spirit that it has been given. Thank you for the super chat. $5 holler has been 3i Atlas. The floor is yours.
So the whole reason we've been entering the solar system is we plan to join the Big Ten as expansion. We've entered discussions. We've said we will step in to replace USC or Michigan if something were to even happen. But I do have a question for you.
Yes.
With all this going on, does let's Notre Dame joins, or Kansas or North Carolina or whoever, let's say they join next year, how does that affect the payouts? Are they a part of this? Are they not a part of this? Like teams that were to join like after this happens?
Well, of course, what I'm about to say is mostly speculation, right? I think they would be definitely a part of it. I think that has, for these guys to do this deal, for UC Investment to want to do this deal, they've had to figure out the mechanisms in how to expand the conference, right? They've had to. And again, I'll go back. When they were having these discussions with UC Investment, when this was well down the road, we've got Mark Coyle. We've got Mark Coyle saying that within 2 days or within 2 years, this conference is going to expand. I'm paraphrasing, but basically that's what he said. The athletic director of Minnesota. So I think that they would be a part of all this. That there'd be a large negotiation process. That a school would come in and they would be offered a certain percent stake of the Big Ten enterprises. That they would be offered a certain amount of money from UC Investment. If UC Investment wants to keep the same 10% stake of the conference, for UC Investment to keep the same 10% stake in the conference, and you're bringing another school that's going to expand the complete valuation, maybe not by a lot, but some, they're going to have to do a cash infusion into that new school. Now, that school coming in, getting a certain stake, is going to send down the percentages of all the other schools, right? I mean, let's say Minnesota has 4.5% of the stake of the enterprise. Well, after this new school comes in, they're not going to be at 4.5 anymore. They might be at, I don't know, 4.3, 4. Everyone's going to give a little bit of something to this new school that's coming on in. That's how I see it working. Is it going to be in this school that's coming in might be at the very bottom of the ladder, just like Rutgers and Maryland was, just like where Oregon and Washington have been, right? Mm-hmm. But it probably is going to be a good enough offer for that school to say, hell yeah, I'm coming in. I don't know. But I think they are going to, if the Big Ten expands with this new operation, and I think they will, I think the new school is going to be part of all of this. I think they're going to have to be part of all this. To come on in as a new school, you're going to have to sign that grant of rights to 2046. That's going to be demanded of you. So you got to be part of this deal, in my opinion. Go ahead, 3i Atlas.
Yeah, we here at 3i Atlas, we're signing it, because we want to be a part of the Big Ten long term. So expect to see our trajectory change here pretty soon, because we got to get a little bit closer to Earth. We were a little bit off. Not quite as close as we planned.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, sir?
Thank you.
You got it.
Nope, that's it.
Beautiful call, sir. Oh, somebody dropped off there. I had turned off the phone about 5 seconds before that call came in, so I don't think that call could come in. I apologize to that caller. I just turned off the phone a couple seconds before that call came in. Tice Summerall, the almighty thin Big Ten needs Michigan more than Michigan needs the Big Ten. That Block M worldwide. Why sign the deal that long? My question is to Tice Summerall, why not sign the deal that long? I don't quite understand this. You're not signing a media rights deal that goes to 2046. You're signing the grant of rights deal to 2046. And where is the Michigan Wolverines going? I think there is this sense of we are this great, powerful program, and Michigan is, but going independence is a mighty, mighty struggle. Notre Dame does not make the same tier 1 media money that Michigan does. Notre Dame does not make the same tier 1 money as Minnesota does. And they still won't, even with this unequal revenue sharing. I still think there's a misunderstanding on how difficult it is to be a standalone football program when you're not bundling up your content with other programs. You do not get the same value coming back. You are more of a risk to your media partners as a standalone. So I don't know. I look, Michigan is an incredible, valuable football program, valuable university, and it is the quintessential Big Ten university. I don't know where you guys think Michigan is going if it doesn't stay in the Big Ten. But I will take up your comments as the days and weeks continue. I appreciate you all joining me. Again, I am feeling incredibly ill right now today, but we had to do this live show. So I want to thank Christopher Hooter, has been, for your super chats, helping us keep the lights on and grow the channel. I want to thank the phone calls, the people calling in, and all the comments in the comment section below the video. I do appreciate it. And again, I do think this deal is going to happen, and I think Michigan and USC are going to sign on. But we shall see. We shall see. Thank you, Ross Dellenger, for putting out this article, for putting balance in this college football reporting, because before this article, it has been absolutely horrific. Hopefully, some college football reporters out there read the article, did not ignore the article, and learned from the article. Because even we learned from the article. Extending the grant of rights from 36 to 46, just that act gives the Big Ten way more leverage, which is going to create way more value for the conference heading into their next media rights negotiations in 2029, and especially the one going into 2036. So I want to thank you all for joining us. I do appreciate it. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family,